Ethan Van Sant on Levia versus Jesus Montijo on Fi. And once again, Kadachi Fi is one of those heroes that, frankly, usually the Emberblade has been the reliable, the trusty weapon for Fi. But look at them, both of these heroes rocking the double-bladed attack patterns here. I love it.
Yeah, I definitely really enjoy the Kadachi Fi, Death by 1,000 Cuts, but also you're going to make great use of that Mask of Momentum, which is such a powerful card here. It's basically changes the way that Ethan's going to have to block, right? He's going to have to, leverage, hey, do I really want to let Fi draw more cards and, continue to pop off, or do I have to block these out? And that's really the power of the Kadachis and the Mask Momentum for sure. Both
players obviously want to know here as we begin it off with, hey, let's just start this off with just an attack. I mean, you got to start loading up your graveyard here if you're Levia, because a lot of your attacks essentially are going to require you to banish from the graveyard, and we'll get a bonus if you banish a 6. So loading up early here as the initial player there's no surprise here. There's one of those Warmonger's diplomacies. One of the talks of the set. We're talking about heroes getting boosts from that set, but Warmonger's diplomacy might be that gem that everybody's looking for when they're ripping packs.
Yeah, I don't think it's much of an argument to say that Warmonger's is like, the breakout card of the set. We did see like a pretty easy full block from Jesus, and that's turn 1, right? Just, hey, I'm gonna block, refill my hand, I'm good to go. Like you said, Ethan definitely just wants a 6 attack card, right? He wasn't trying to push damage. He's just like, I want a 6 attack card in my bin.
Hey, Kel, tell me if you heard this story. Kadachi for 1.
Kadachi for 1?
Easy peasy. Since the dawn of time, there has been a Kadachi for 1 pitching a blue Soul Bead Strike. Again, the Kadachis will have a built-in go again if there is a card in the pitch zone with 0 cost. Soul Bead Strike blue is one of those great options to fill it. Blocks for 3, attacks for 2, has an on-hit effect. A great way to open up here now. Mask of Momentum is threatening here.
Yeah, it is. And this is where Ethan's like, all right, well, now I have to commit something to block here. And that's kind of how the Kadachi train goes. Sometimes people will opt to block the second Kadachi just to make sure they get that block, so it's more difficult to get that mask trigger. But he's playing against Fi, and Fi is able to push many, many attacks. Especially since Fi just kind of starts with that Phoenix Flame in the bin, so he can kind of get it back whenever he needs to using Fi's hero ability. So we do have a block here, which is exactly as we expected. Unlike the previous round where we saw a lot of attack reactions with Dorinthia, Fi doesn't really play a lot of attack reactions. He's kind of just like, I'm playing this is on the board, I'm kind of out there, right? So there's not a lot of trickery here. It's more just kind of like, hey, I'm going to attack with a bunch of stuff.
Managing the Mask Momentum threat is going to be something that Ethan is going to have to be cognizant of. Basically, you don't want to give Fi free cards because the amount of go again in that deck is unreal, as Ethan here has, blocked where he needs to block. And you're talking about, again, attack reactions and the dangers of those attack reactions. What can you expect? Katsu is going to be loaded with, ancestral empowerment. Some even still roll something like a red Razor Reflex, but I doubt that that's the case here, as a red Sink Below covers up the 4th of this ever-growing combat chain.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I was running something like the Ancestral Empowerment, just because it's kind of like, +1, draw a card, it's kind of like a free roll. But, I could see also builds where they just like, hey, I just want all attacks, right? And here we have, like I mentioned before, this is a Phoenix Flame. It's going to be coming in for 1, right? Because of, you do have that requisite number of chain links. I'm also kind of looking at Ethan's equipment loadout here. He does have a lot of really awesome-looking altars. So I believe his glove, is that Gambler's Gloves? I think that may be a Gambler's Glove altar.
Yeah, well, this is the difficult part about if you're trying to learn the cards and you're looking at Ethan, because Ethan's whole deck plays like an art museum, frankly. It is so beautiful. Again, the claws are incredible, but yeah, he is blinged out to the max. I believe that might even be a cold foil Carrion Husk as well.
I do believe so. We also have, I believe, the pants. He's got the good old scabbies, right? I think he's got like an altered
scab skin leathers,
scabbies. Yeah. And then, okay, I want to talk about his helmet, by the way. I think it's one of my favorite cards out of the set, and we're definitely going to see it played to good use in this matchup. It is Scowling Flesh Bag, which is blocks, but it also rips a card out of your opponent's hand and kind of messes up a lot of like go wide aggro turns by just taking a card out. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that to good use here in this particular match.
Kadachi as the opening attack pattern here, as Ethan Van Sant has just signed for the package each time. Here he's going to send a card in front of that here. I believe that is a Hungering Slaughter Beast. Blocks enough, we'll say. But hey, here's the first of the spicy little extra sprinkles on this attack pattern. As basically, surprise, surprise, we're going to go with the +1 here with the Art of War, banishing, drawing, and giving +1 to all the attack actions on the chain. Now, the Kadachis here aren't going to get buffed. You don't need to do it, but a nice little surprise to just pull one over here on Ethan. And not only that, this does also trigger the Mask of Momentum.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really nice play, I'll be honest. Like, Art of War is one of the most powerful cards in the game, and it has been ever since it was printed, and being able to just draw some cards and also pump your attack is huge. And not only that, he was able to really, really maximize his resources here, right? He had the 2 for the Kadachis and still the 1 floating to play that Art of War, and he's able just to continue the chain. Fi is the hero that is known for just having this massive pile. Like, your chain is huge. If you thought Lexi could play a lot of cards in a turn, here's Fi, right? Like,
oh boy, Brand with Cinderclaw is going to be your third Draconic chain link as well, which means that if you want to use that Fi ability to recur the Phoenix Flame, it costs you a big fat 0. And frankly, being in Vegas for the past 36 hours, nothing in this city is free. You think it is, it ain't free. So this might be the freest thing you'll ever get in this city is a Phoenix Flame.
Sir, I see that you're breathing some air. $5, please.
Yeah, basically. Oh, you wanted oxygen in that? Okay, well, that's a premium on top of that. You need to be a 7-star Diamond Club member to breathe our air, yeah.
You need to be an annual pass holder. As you called, here's the Phoenix Flame. Nice little cold foil Phoenix Flame pushing some damage. And I do want to note here that if you're used to seeing, like, Lexi, Lexi can push, like, this damage, but Lexi also pushes, like, on-hit effects. Fi is all about the damage. Fi is just like, I want to just put the numbers out. I want to do as much damage as I possibly can. Not as much so relying on some on-hit effects, though he has some here and there. And we have a nice... Fi's turn, by the way, is not over. He just cleaned up the combat chain to play a non-attack. Just saying.
This was a matter of real estate, frankly. Yeah. It had nothing to do with, it's just a fact of like, okay, well, we're going to continue this chain. We're running out, and look at that, the Phoenix Flame again. Incredible. And keep in mind, Kel, look at the value that this Art of War represented as, I believe, besides the Kadachis, there was about 5 or 6, I think maybe 6 attack actions were played here. That Art of War drew you 2 and represented 6 additional damage. Absolutely incredible.
It was a lot. It was definitely a lot. Here we have a big old 8 coming in. I do believe this is the one where if you fully block it, you get a Quicken token, right?
Certainly, and I don't believe that Jesus here, I believe the scientific term is gives a damn, because 8 attack here, sure, the Quicken token sounds good. Looks like Jesus is obviously...
He doesn't need it.
No, he's going to sign for it, no problem. It's all good. Just go down into 25. He's playing with house money here, and the Quicken token is nothing important because basically Fi is just a go-again machine.
Yeah, like, you don't need a Quicken token when everything already has go again, right? You don't need double go again. That doesn't do anything. So, yeah, I do like this kind of back and forth style of a match. Me personally, I like the aggressive matches. I like swinging left and right, and that's what we want to do here. This is what is this one? This is the one that is it Twin Flames?
Spreading Flames.
Spreading Flames.
Yeah, well, here's the deal. And, like, Uprising cards, especially Fi, it's, all right, lots of fire, lots of red, and somebody on the picture that is incredibly angry at something. And if I was Ethan here, I would be feeling the pressure as, again, Fi is relentless, and we're going to close this up here. Kadachi is going to follow suit here. The second Kadachi, an interesting attack pattern here, because keep in mind, the Mask of Momentum requires the 3rd consecutive hit to be an attack action. So even if this Kadachi leaks through, the Mask of Momentum would not trigger. But Ethan here, I think, is playing to the degree of, I'm going to throw a 2-block in front of this, and now you have to restart the chain. This is going to be a Phoenix Flame. Again, costs you nothing, comes in for just additional damage. It's not getting buffed off the back of something like Art of War, but it is getting buffed off the back of something like Shuko. But keep in mind here, this is Lava Burst. This is a big-time attack, and finally the committing of the Carrion Husk.
I believe this is what you would call a huskable attack. It's got that sweet spot, right? Like Leviah at 15, Husk being able to block, get full value out of that 6 block, especially against Fi, who's known for going like, death by 1,000 cuts. This is like a very juicy huskable attack.
We're not done yet here, Kel, because we are going to put on our dancing shoes. The Snapdragon Scaler's giving that Lava Burst another attack here, and take a look here. This is going to be the other, this one's coming in for 2. I said the Shuko was a different story. However, this one's going to get buffed again. The Shuko is going to buff the second attack. I believe that is base 2 or less.
Yes.
And there we go. So Ethan committing the Scabskin Leathers. One of the things that Levia does well is also block with equipment. She has a lot of options to block, but Art of War starting this one off.
So we like Art of War in Fi. Art of War in Levia does similar things, but to a more synergistic degree, because he's able to banish cards, notably banishing a 6-attack card, turning off Levia's hero ability, or activating Levia's hero ability, turning off blood debt, so he doesn't really have to care about the blood debt. It's not piling a lot of it right now, but that Carrion Husk is in there, so it will start ticking down his life, but also drawing cards. So you have like a lot of synergy here, which is very, very nice for Levia.
Dread Screamer is going to look for cards in the arsenal. Cards in the graveyard. You're going to banish basically 3 random. If a 6 is taken, you're going to get go again. So he's going for 4, 5, 6 here off the dice roll. I believe that there's a hit here.
I think so.
And not only that, the best thing that you can hope for as a Levia player is banish a 6 and clean out some of those whiffs.
Yeah, and like coming in for 7, +1 from the Art of War is pretty nasty, right? That's a really great break point. As the Fire player here, this actually doesn't threaten any on-hit effects, so you got to be looking at your hand. You got to be thinking, hey, do I even want to block this, right? Maybe I just take the damage and come back and try to dish out as much as I can do here.
I think that's the right move. Vanilla damage at this juncture, I think, is kind of you can throw that option away here, because Jesus is also on the mentality of it's not just the pressure that I'm giving, it's also the pressure that you're going to feel from the blood debt that you're going to incur. However, there is a safety net here for Levia potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's the brand new card, Levia Redeemed, can act either as a safety net or as kind of like a second wind, depending on what you need. Currently, Ethan's done a great job of managing his banish, so he doesn't have a ton of cards that he has to worry about currently, but it could definitely be a problem going into the lower life totals. I would also like to note that Jesus is rocking a no-block in hand with another Art of War. This is a very Art of War-centric game. So even if he wanted to block, he really doesn't have great blocks. And I think a lot of the other cards in his hand are also like low-block cards, like two blocks here and there. Fi traditionally doesn't block very well, right?
It doesn't, but you do have options in case you want to actually throw some equipment in front of something that might have an on-hit.
Shuko blocks.
Shuko blocks, you've got the Furnace, and worst-case scenario is Mask. Eventually, you're going to come to a point where the Mask on-hit is not necessarily relevant because your opponent is either so low to the ground that you can just you would rather just give up the block here, or your opponent is at a place where, if their opponent's at 3 consecutive hits, the on-hit is not draw a card, the on-hit is victory, and you don't need to worry about it.
So it looks like Jesus is just going to take it. He's just like, I'm going to take it. I think we had did we have an immediate follow-up with like a Shadowpede? I believe he followed that up with a Shadowpede, and then Jesus immediately also took that. He's just like, I'm not blocking this turn.
Why not? I mean, I think that's a great opportunity here for Jesus to maintain the pressure, and like I said, there's always going to be a thought of, if I just maintain pressure, Ethan has to eventually manage his own blood debt, so that provides a window for me to actually punch through for damage. And here is an Art of War kicking off the turn here. He's going to be pitching and banishing, drawing 2 with the +1 option. So every attack action on this combat chain is going to be buffed up by 1.
I can't help but wonder if this is a turn where we see that Scowling Flesh Bag come into play. Maybe not yet. Maybe he wants to hold off till the life totals are a little bit lower, but I can see him possibly considering it here, as this might be a very large turn, and taking a card out of his hand, taking a card out of Jesus' hand for this turn could be a big deal, especially when they're all pumped up from the Art of War.
Hey, this Ronin Renegade is stamped from, I believe, PT Lil.
Yeah,
a little callback here. That card over there you see in the bottom right corner, the little LSS stamp, this is from the Uprising Draft, which I believe was from Pro Tour in Lille, France. And it's nice to see these kind of come up out in these. I have a stack of these. A lot of players that were there didn't want them. I'm like, I will happily take these. These are great mementos. And now, like, hearing players ask for them because they're playing some of those other heroes. But great call on this, as the Flesh Bag is looking to intimidate out of the hand. Now, Intimidation means it's a temporary banish. It just goes into the banish zone. You do not have access to it for the remainder of the turn.
Yeah, and I like I was saying, I really love this block here, right? This is he's trying to maximize the use out of the Scowling Flesh Bag. Jesus' cards are all pumped up by 1 here, and just ripping a card out of his hand is such good value, right? Helps soften the blow of that Artawar. And, he's Fi. He's still going to do some Fi stuff, still going to attack with some cards, but it's definitely not as good as he wanted, right?
This Rabble is incredibly ravenous at this moment, peeling off the top and just basically saying, I got a double strike. That's what you got to deal with next time. But the red off the top means that this Ravenous Rabble is coming in for 4 go again. We've seen some of these combat chains already, Kel, that were 5, 6 deep. Just attack actions, plus throw in the Kodachis as just kind of, and just extra sprinkles on top of all of this sadness. And you get the bonus from this Art of War. It seems like Jesus Montijo here is having the time of his life, frankly. Just crushing and crushing. Every attack, every draw off the top seems to be helpful here. And Ethan is taking a second here to reevaluate. If Ethan wants to get back into this, he's going to have to take some damage. And in order to make sure that he is not letting the wrong attack through, he has to also consider the fact that, okay, if Mask hits, they're drawing double strike. That's 2 extra combat chain links that are getting buffed up by the Art of War. What do I block? How do I do this? And if I want to get back at this, how do I have a hand that can potentially threaten 11 damage? And that is a difficult thing to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And, as the Fi player, also as the Leviathan player, too, you can't discount that nice little Phoenix Flame just kind of sitting there, right? Phoenix Flame always threatening to just come back on in, and on a turn with Art of War, it's a couple points of damage, right? It's not nothing. And when the life totals are this low, it can really, really matter. And not just for the damage, though, but also for, like you said, the Mask Momentum triggers, right? Like, he took 1 from the Kodachi, and now, like, this is a really big block, right? Does he want to take anything from this Ravenous Rabble and then threaten the Mask Momentum on the subsequent attack, which he's going to have a subsequent attack.
Well, this Ravenous Rabble is getting the little lift here from the Art of War. It's 5 go again, and we're going to throw some cards in front of it in order to, once again, just shut down the Mask Momentum. Why play games? Let's just make sure that this finishes up. It looks like Jesus Montijo here is content to just end the combat chain, close it, end the turn, knowing that he's drawing up to a double strike. He's going to put a card in Arsenal. He's at a decent life total here against a Leviathan player that only has 2 cards in hand plus 1 in Arsenal, but that could still be dangerous.
Yeah. So here we have a nice little graveyard to choose from here. So we're going to see some dice rolling. I do want to note that Jesus still has quite a bit of block, right? He's a ninja, but he still has a lot of block on the board. So we got to keep that in mind, going into this. He's at 11 life. It's kind of a tied game here, but Jesus does have more block now than Levi does.
All right, so a satisfaction, as it were, of the blood debt turn-off ability from Leviathan. No blood debt to be incurred here. And it like I said, it kind of becomes worrisome down the line for Ethan here, where now your blood debt's at 4. So you have to keep in mind that you can't just outright block out. It's like taking 4 to the dome here. It's this sword of Damocles that's just hovering over you that becomes heavier and more burdensome the deeper you go into these games. And for Jesus, he's thinking, I'm probably just going to go full throttle here. If you can't kill me, then that's perfectly fine by me, as he just absolutely accepts the charges here. Yeah,
I mean, going into a 4-card hand, card plus Arsenal, as Ethan, you're going to be, a little afraid, right? When they say no blocks, you're like, uh-oh. I wanted a card from you, and now you're just going to come back with probably many, many cuts. And here's that double strike, like you mentioned. Really cool card. It's a card that basically lets you attack with it twice. So when it at the end of you can close the combat chain, and then you can attack with it again from banishment, which is great. And the second one's going to get a nice little pump from the Shuko, so it comes in for 2. So it's not just a 1 and a 1; it's a 1 and a 2. So nice little play there.
And here is Blaze Headlong, aka the Hedgehog, is going to be coming in for 4 go again, and he's going to toss in a swing big as well as the remaining block from the Scab Skin Leathers. You got to block this one out because this one would have triggered the Mask Momentum. Now, the thing about this is that typically in the past, you play Katsu, it's like, oh, if I block out on the 3rd one, it's really hard and probably it's improbable for me to actually get a second opportunity to threaten Mask. For Fi, it's like, yeah, I'll threaten Mask 3 times a turn. No problem.
For sure. I mean, yeah, it's exactly like you said. He's attacking with so many things. You have to keep counting, 2 attacks and then a block, 2 attacks and a block, or just kind of cut that, down to size. Here we have Fi activation, getting back a, Phoenix Flame. once again, just, coming in for one. This damage is like super relevant, especially when the life totals are this low.
Whew.
That's a snatch.
That's back-breaking. Now, there is no more Snapdragon Scalers. It looks like Ethan is just going to throw down because, again, he is either dead to Snatch or dead to his Blood Dead. This is a element of this matchup of playing the hero that you are basically saying, I can be so explosive. We saw no Blood Rush Bellows, keep in mind. We saw very little options to actually have that kind of explosivity that Levi is capable of. But the trade-off here is late in the game, you are managing an extra resource. That is Blood Dead. But the problem is that usually you're trading off that, you're mortgaging the future for immediate returns, but Ethan did not get access to a lot of those big power cards like Blood Rush Bellow, which you trade up for the late game threat of Blood Dead.
Yeah, and for those watching, like for Levi Redeem, for example, I believe it triggers on a specific time, right? And if you don't do it then you can't just kind of like be like, okay, I play Levi Redeem. So it was past that point of no return, right? And that Blood Debt was a real threat there.
It's difficult, and you got to feel for Ethan here, but full credit to Jesus Montijo, who just saw